Alright, in this video we're going to be talking about the atmospheric river slamming into California, the nor'easter that's going to be hitting the east coast of the United States, and the potential for severe weather that's going to be striking the plains as we head into the late week. This is Advective weather. Let's get started. Here are current conditions right now. We have flood watches stretching through most of California with some winter storm warnings in place there in the Sierra Nevadas. We can also see there a system that's advancing southward right now in the U.S. That is going to be the precursor to our nor'easter off the east coast right now. You can see that convection, those storms there off the coast of North Carolina, that low pressure system, that's going to be our big nor'easter system. And then you'll notice there that stream of clouds starting to move into California. That moisture is only going to get more intense with time, and that will eventually not only be the cause of our potential for severe weather, but also the cause of a potential blizzard in the Midwest, although we're not going to be elaborating too much on that yet, as there's too much uncertainty to really talk about that. And then also in Florida, you'll notice there some thunderstorms, brief tornadoes possible there, as well as some strong winds and large hail, so a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, threat for severe weather associated with those storms today. Well, let's get into the overview of things. Here we are today. You'll notice there on the west coast, that area of low pressure. It's going to be ushering in lots of moisture, lots of rainfall, especially into the late day, and then some wintry precipitation stretching all the way from Washington and Oregon all the way into Texas. You'll notice there as well that we do have that low pressure system off the coast of North Carolina, and then we have another system that's kind of moving in around the Chicago metro all the way up to Toronto, but some heavy snow possible, especially late in the day, and we'll again get into more details with that with time. And you'll also notice again that area of thunderstorms down there in Florida. Again, level 1 out of 5 severe risk there. Tomorrow, that flood threat gets bigger for California. That's the red hatched region, and the winter weather really moves in as well. That low pressure system much stronger and moving into California rather quickly. And then you can also see there our strong nor'easter bringing heavy snow all the way from Pennsylvania and New Jersey all the way up into Maine. Some areas could get over a foot of snow. We'll go into more detail with that soon. Finally, here we are 3 days out. You'll notice there that low pressure system advancing into Nevada. The atmospheric river event is pretty much over for California. And then 4 days out, as we'll talk about later, that's when the Midwest could get some more serious winter weather, and that's when the severe weather threat also ticks up. Again, we won't be talking much about the winter weather today, as we don't know much about it just yet. Uncertainty is rather high. With the severe weather, we do have an SPC outlook for 4 days out, so we will be talking about that. Let's get started with details on the nor'easter. This is going to be from today through Wednesday, and this is going to be producing heavy snow, dangerous travel, and coastal flooding. And we'll talk about all of that here in more detail soon. But there's going to be that low pressure system off the coast of California, and that's going to strengthen rather quickly into a significant nor'easter. And the biggest impacts are going to be on Tuesday, but they could remain through Wednesday as well. Again, as the Weather Prediction Center says, the peak of the storm expected tonight through Tuesday night. Heavy snow rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour are possible, and they are expecting that this will be heavy, wet snow with wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour, causing scattered to widespread power outages and tree damage as well. They're expecting that similar impacts could be felt along I-95 from southern New England to Portland. They're expecting that some more elevated terrain will be receiving the heaviest snowfall totals, with greater than a foot being possible there in the Catskills and the southern Adirondacks. Please correct me on my pronunciations if I get these wrong. In the Berkshires and the Worcestershire Hills in Massachusetts, Madnox and White Mountains in New Hampshire, with the Southern Green Mountains in Vermont. And they're expecting localized maximum totals from 2 feet to 2.5 feet. So that's quite a lot of snow there. And they're expecting, again, widespread coastal flooding being possible. It's going to be relatively minor, but not zero. And they're expecting that low pressure will stall and deepen off the coast of New England with time before it does move out around Wednesday. All right, well, let's talk about the nor'easter in a bit more detail. What is a nor'easter exactly? So this is a nor'easter. It tracks, the one that we have right now is currently around North Carolina, so it's already tracked from around Florida, although that's not exactly where it came from. Similar trajectory to this, and then you'll notice there west of the low pressure track, that's where we'll get the most snow. That's what's going to happen here as well. Again, there's some uncertainty with who exactly will get the highest amount of snow, because you're going to have those small variations in track leading to big differences in snow totals. But nor'easters are the big wind makers, the big moisture makers, and they're going to be producing quite a lot of snow as well. So again, the heavily populated regions between DC, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, the I-95 corridor, are especially impacted by nor'easters. Generally speaking, they'll be impacted by this one as well. Let's talk about the Winter Storm Severity Index associated with this nor'easter. Minor impacts stretching all the way from Ohio up to Maine. This is where minor disruptions to daily life are possible. Moderate impacts stretching with the exception of the Appalachians, stretching from around Pennsylvania, southern New York, all the way into Maine, and then those major and extreme impacts there as well. If you're in the major or extreme impacts, then big disruptions to daily life are expected. Things like school cancellations are possible. Travel is going to be very difficult, if not impossible. And then the moderate impacts, again, you're going to take that down just a hair. You might have some school cancellations, things of that nature, but some significant disruptions to daily life, especially if you're traveling, are possible. So I'd be avoiding travel if I could, if within any of these winter weather impact zones, but especially within the major and extreme ones. That's where travel could be particularly dangerous. Let's talk about snow totals now. This is the official forecast, courtesy of the National Weather Service. You'll notice there are well over a foot of snow expected over much of the state of New York, with over 2 feet of snow expected in higher elevations. Again, that kind of lines up with the Weather Prediction Center's forecast as well, and that 2 feet of snow possibilities, those stretch all the way from southeastern New York all the way into southern Vermont as well. So certainly a possibility there. We'll see what continues to happen, but most of the Northeast is at least going to get 3 inches of snow. This is the big snowmaker of the year, it looks like, the first big snowmaker of a little bit, and that's definitely going to be significant for sure. Let's take a second opinion now from the National Blend of Models. Similar story, that spot of over 2 feet of snow in the higher elevations in southeastern New York, with our second snow maxima, although not quite as high in southern Vermont. But the same general consensus remains. Widespread snow totals over 3 inches across much of the Northeast. Again, the first big snowmaker of the season, possibly the only one with how late we are, but that doesn't mean it is the only one. We'll see what happens in the future, and we'll keep you posted if anything else does end up happening. Let's talk about the flooding threat here briefly. We did mention coastal flooding. There's also a very slight threat of flash flooding. This is a level 1 out of 4, meaning a 5% chance or higher is there for flash flooding to occur within 25 miles of any point here. So relatively low threat here, but not zero. But still, if you're in New York City heading towards Trenton, New Jersey, not exactly there, but if you're east of there, just make sure that you're staying weather aware. And if you're on Long Island, same thing there as well. Just make sure that you're weather aware in the event that flooding does begin today. Although, again, it's relatively unlikely, but it's not impossible. So stay weather aware there with the flash flooding threat, level 1 out of 4 in place. For the Northeast, we'll be getting into where the higher threats are, level 3 out of 4s in California. Let's take a look at this weather model. This is starting from right about now, and you'll notice here that low pressure system from North Carolina begins to move north, snow moving in as we head into the late afternoon and early evening hours, and that begins to intensify quickly. We're heading into the overnight hours now. We're approaching midnight, and you'll notice they're very heavy snow, especially in southern New York, as that low pressure system begins to move in. That's where those closed off lines are. Those are known as isobars, and then you'll notice this system swings back around as we head into the morning hours. So this is Tuesday morning, heading into Tuesday afternoon, so we've just hit noon, and then as we head into 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and so on and so forth, you'll notice that system moving in hour by hour. Very intense snowfall just off the coast. That could go over the coast. And here we are with the peak of the snowfall as we head into the evening hours, 6 to 10 p.m. or so on Tuesday night, and then that snow begins to fizzle out as we head into the morning hours of Wednesday, and that system does stall and meander a bit, but then finally begins to move off of the east coast of the U.S. Some snow remaining there as we do move through the remainder of the forecast period. All right, let's talk about now the winter storms moving into the western United States and the atmospheric river event associated with that. So this is another major winter storm. It's going to be moving through California from late today into Wednesday. So this is going to be a big time event. And again, that's why the Weather Prediction Center has such serious risks in place. Level 5 out of 5 for winter weather, those extreme impacts widespread across the Sierra Nevadas. Level 3 out of 4, excessive rainfall risk, a moderate risk in place there. We'll talk about that in more detail soon. But we're expecting that today we're going to be seeing rounds of rain and snow all the way into the evening before the more sustained rain and snow moves in and that atmospheric river begins to pack a punch. But that rain is going to intensify late tonight into Wednesday, with flooding impacts below 5,000 feet in elevation possible across much of the coast of California and the Central Valley. I'd say most of it all the way stretching from Los Angeles all the way to the California-Oregon border. So serious stuff there, and again, we'll talk about that in more detail soon. But heavier rain, snow, and snowmelt is likely in the midweek as warm air ushers in. So we're not only going to have that heavy rain causing flooding problems, but the snow that we've gotten, the lots and lots of snow on the mountains of California, the Sierra Nevadas especially, that's going to start melting, and that's going to cause problems for people, especially there on the western end of the mountain slopes. So not good news there, although again, if you're on the eastern end, you're still in a flooding risk. And again, we'll go over that relatively soon. And finally, the higher elevations are going to be getting some heavy wet snow as well, which should make those snow piles you already have feet and feet taller, which will further increase snow load issues that have been occurring over there, which is definitely a problem. So if dangerous snow loads are already on building structures, locations over there in the Sierra Nevadas and you're there, I would suggest that you prepare accordingly, as that load is only going to get more intense with time. Let's talk about the excessive rainfall threat now. You'll notice there that moderate risk just stretching across the California border into Oregon, and then stretching southward across much of the northwestern coast of California. San Francisco there in a marginal risk, level 1 out of 4, and so is Monterey, with Chico right along the border of that moderate and slight risk for excessive rainfall. That's going to stretch all the way from the northern end of the Sierra Nevadas all the way into the central Sierra Nevadas, where that flooding risk is today. And then if you're in Bakersfield, Lancaster, Los Angeles, you're not in a flood risk today, but tomorrow you most certainly are. Moderate risk of flash flooding is in place for Los Angeles, so if you're in Los Angeles, you need to be watching this closely. Marginal risk for San Diego and San Francisco just outside of that moderate risk. Would not be shocked to see an upgrade there with Monterey in the moderate risk as well. Chico and well down the Sierra Nevadas and Central California, all within a moderate risk for flash flooding. So what's that mean? That means there's at least a 40% chance of excessive rainfall occurring within 25 miles of a given point in that moderate risk. So that means that within 25 miles of you, it's almost more likely than not that flash flooding is going to occur. So very serious stuff there for sure. And then you'll see there places like Sacramento within the slight risk as well. And that slight risk is for a 15% chance of rapid onset flooding within 25 miles of a point. That's level 2 out of 4. As we head into the precipitation totals throughout this event, this is over the next 2 days or so when the major atmospheric river event moves through. You'll notice near Los Angeles, we're seeing nearly 5 inches of rain. That's rather serious, especially given how much precipitation they've already received, hence the moderate risk that's currently in place. As we move northward, places like San Diego around there are going to get around an inch of rain, but just south of there, over 2 inches are possible. And then as we head all the way from north of San Diego to the Oregon-California border, we're expecting well over 2 inches of rain. And down the Sierra Nevadas, the same thing applies, although some of that is going to be converted into snow. Let's talk about that now. Here's the Winter Storm Severity Index with extreme impacts expected down the central Sierra Nevadas there in California. That's where our primary winter weather threats are. There's not much of one there anywhere else in the state, but again, the Sierra Nevadas, that's where our primary winter threat is, and again, that's maxed out at a level 5 out of 5 for snow accumulations and snow load. Let's talk about those snow accumulations. Here's the official forecast, courtesy of the National Weather Service, and well over 5 feet of snow is a real possibility here, especially in the southern side of the Sierra Nevadas as the system moves through. So again, that's going to be many more feet of snow that are going to be causing problems for the mountainous regions of California. And again, that snow that's going to be melting around that is going to be causing flooding problems around the western side of the Sierra Nevada slopes. So definitely problematic in that respect. Not good news there, unfortunately, although this is some much-needed rain and snow, given the drought that California's had. This is just over the top. This is just too much for them, unfortunately. We'll keep you posted as the flooding threat continues to evolve. Here's the weather model. This is the North American Model 3 kilometer. It's the one I showed you earlier. This will give you an idea of what the radar could look like. Here we are heading into this evening, and you'll notice there, especially on the northern side of California, that moisture stream beginning to move in. And then as we head into the overnight hours, there it is, that big-time moisture moving in, and then as it moves along the mountain slopes, you'll notice it gets more and more intense. Heavy snow there in the Sierra Nevadas heading into Tuesday, with widespread rainfall occurring across the state. That's moderate to heavy rain all the way from Los Angeles up through the remainder of the state of California, with heavy snowfall continuing in the Sierra Nevadas. This is it. Tuesday afternoon, we're continuing to see here serious rainfall. The northern side of the state beginning to see some relief, with the southern side still having that moisture stream moving in. As we head into the overnight hours of Tuesday into Wednesday, that really does begin to lighten up, but still some parts of the state, especially in central and southern California, still receiving some kind of moisture, unfortunately. And then as we move into the morning hours of Wednesday and the early afternoon, you'll notice there that rain, that snow moves out of most of the state. All right, let's talk about the severe weather threat that's occurring in association with the same system in the plains of the United States. This is a level 2 out of 5 already. That is a slight risk, 4 days out, stretching all the way from Tulsa and Oklahoma City down into Dallas, Shreveport, near Houston, Texas as well. Let's break this down a little further. There it is, that level 2 out of 5. So that includes cities like Bartsville, Tulsa, McAllister, Ardmore, Norman, and Oklahoma City in the state of Oklahoma, Paris, Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, all in the state of Texas, Texarkana, also within this risk, Fort Smith, nearly within this risk, and Shreveport, and Natchitoches also within this risk. I would not be surprised to see it a little larger, but here it is, and that risk is going to be for all hazards being a possibility there. Strong winds, large hail, tornadoes, all possible. We'll have more details as time goes on, but make sure that you're staying weather aware if within that risk region. And this event could get more serious. There's some model indications, and I think the best visualization of that is like so. So we have a level 2 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center, but if this model ends up being correct, that is a level 3 out of 5 with the Black Hatch region where this model thinks there could be some significant severe weather. Now, folks at the Storm Prediction Center know what they're doing, and that's what you'd err on the side on right now. So don't pay attention to the model here for decision making. Just know that this is what the map could look like as time goes on. This just gives you an idea of the fact that this could become more serious with time as we get closer to the event, but don't pay attention to specific locations, anything like that. That's not the point. The point is that there's a possibility that some region, some corridor within that level 2 out of 5 could need an upgrade to a level 3 out of 5 as we get a better idea of what the severe weather event looks like. But all the 8 ingredients look like they're going to be in place there. It looks like we're going to have sufficient lift. It looks like we're going to have a lot of moisture as well, and it also looks as if we're going to have significant veering in the atmosphere, tilt in the atmosphere, that kind of torque given from what we call vertical wind shear. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this, and we'll keep you posted as time goes on, but as of now, just make sure that you're staying weather aware. There's also a non-zero flooding threat with this, a slight risk of flash flooding here 4 days out on Thursday, and that's stretching all the way from around the Dallas-Fort Worth metro to near Little Rock, also stretching through places such as Texarkana and Shreveport. So that's what we're looking at here in terms of the flooding threat, level 2 out of 4 in place there as well. All right, well, here's the official forecast for that level 2 out of 4 risk. You'll notice over 2 inches of rain being a possibility within much of that risk area, and over an inch of rain being possible over the next 5 days, stretching all the way from Dallas, Fort Worth, and points south through most of the state of Louisiana. And as this storm moves off the east coast of the United States, you'll notice there are places like Mississippi, Alabama also within that possibility of some heavier rainfall. Let's take a look at a weather model. This is not a great weather model, but you can see here as we head into the morning and afternoon hours, storms fire off by around noon Central Time, and then here we are 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. That becomes more of a line of storms as we head into Mississippi. And as we head into the overnight hours here into Friday, you'll notice the storms begin to fizzle out, but that line of storms here as we head towards the morning hours, definitely a possibility. So let's look at that again, and you'll notice there storms begin to fire off there. That's around 9 a.m. Noon here, that's when we start to see those storms congeal into a bit of a line over our risk area. And then you'll notice there some stronger storms possible stretching all the way from the boot heel of Missouri through Texas. Now, this is just one model of the global forecast system. This is going to change. This is just what the radar could look like. We'll have higher resolution, more accurate models for severe thunderstorms in the near future. So here's what you can do. If you are within a severe weather risk, a winter weather risk, anything like that, go to ready.gov/make-a-plan so that way you can be safe in the event that hazardous weather does strike you, whether you're in a direct threat or not. When it comes to flash flooding, it doesn't take long for something like a floodplain to become flooded very quickly. This could happen within minutes. So that's why, especially in California where that big time flood risk is, you need to be taking this seriously. As again, you can see this visualization right here. It doesn't take very long for some pretty dry ground to get flooded, and that can happen very rapidly. That's why it's called rapid onset flooding or flash flooding. How can you prepare for flooding before it happens? Make sure you know if you're in a floodplain, what the fastest way to get to higher ground is, and how to get an escape route. Know what roads are and aren't going to flood. But ensure that if you are in a situation where a road is flooded, you don't drive through it, you don't know how deep that water is, and it doesn't take much water for your vehicle to get swept off as well. Make sure you're securing your documents as well as the situation progresses. Debris flows are also a possibility with heavy rain, and this is a problem because it can destroy homes, it can carry trees, so it's extremely dangerous not only because it can destroy homes, but it can also be life-threatening as you can get swept up in that current as well. If it can sweep up your home, it can sweep up you. Don't drive through it. Don't walk through it. Try to stay safe, get to higher ground, and ensure that if you are within a plane where you think that debris fields like that can occur, that you know where to evacuate to before the event, not during. All right, let's now talk about the winter weather side of things. Here's the difference between watches and warnings. If you're in a winter storm, ice storm, whatever it is, watch. That means that the conditions that are being claimed are possible, but not likely just yet. So that means that you need to be prepared to do things like adjust your travel plans in case a warning is issued. If you're in a warning, that means that you need to act, you need to execute your plan. And that means that travel will become dangerous and you need to delay your travel plans until conditions improve, as this means that things like heavy snow, strong winds, sleet, freezing rain, all of that is now expected, not just possible. Well, what can you do here? Let's talk about staying warm when the power is out. There are going to be some power outages, especially with this nor'easter in the northeastern U.S. Here's what you can do. You need to close blinds and curtains, and that'll keep in some heat. You want to close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat, and you want to wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothing while eating and drinking, as food provides energy to warm the body. You want to avoid caffeine and alcohol, as those can run you too much, as you're already going to be expending a lot of energy, and that can make you expend more energy than you actually have. That can be dangerous. And then you want to stuff towels or rags in cracks and under doors again, so that way heat doesn't seep out of your building. All right, well, what can you do if you're caught outside in a winter storm? First things first, you need to find a shelter. If you know where a shelter is, that's where you need to get. You want to cover your exposed body parts. So basically what that means is just wear your winter hat, wear your layers, make sure that you're wearing gloves, things of that nature. You want to melt snow for drinking water. This will help you avoid hypothermia. And you want to keep yourself moving. This will help you avoid both frostbite and hypothermia by keeping you warm. Let's talk about storm planning now. This is for those of us in the severe weather risk. A few days out, that's where we are right now. Make sure that you have emergency supplies, you know your safe places, and have a communication plan. Go to ready.gov/make-a-plan again if you want to make your severe weather plan. You have enough time to do it. As we head into the day before, this is going to be a couple days from now, and forecast accuracy will improve. You'll be able to adjust plans. You'll know if you're within the line of fire or if you've been taken out of the risk, because that is going to shift around some, things like that. And then on the day of, if you're within a severe weather risk, make sure that you have multiple ways to get weather alerts, you're executing your communication plan, and you know exactly how to take action in the event a warning is issued. All right, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and it was useful to you. You can join us at the link below on our Discord server if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, and you can chat with us directly and the rest of our community. You can also chat with us here on YouTube just by leaving a comment on this video, and we'll be happy to get back to you whenever we can as well. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you didn't, you know where that button is. You can subscribe to the channel for more content like this and turn on notifications if these videos are providing you with important information you're going to need. Thanks again for watching. If you know anyone who is in the risk areas we talked about today, share it with them as well. And I hope to see you tomorrow for our next video.